Good evening and welcome to the Newburyport Mayoral Candidate Debate presented by the Greater Newburyport Chamber of Commerce and Industry and the Daily News, and also broadcast on WNBP AM and FM radio, WNBP.com, and Port Media Television in Newburyport. I'm Pete Falcone from WNBP Radio. The questions tonight will come from John McCone, the editor of the Daily News of Newburyport, and Kim Goby, the chair-elect of the Greater Newburyport Chamber of Commerce. Our timekeeper is Ann Orman. We'd like to take a moment to thank the staff of Newburyport High School for their assistance in preparation for tonight's event, especially Dale and Pat, and students Cam, Lily, Dan, and Michael. Now here's how the debate will run tonight. Each candidate will have 3 minutes for opening remarks. Each candidate will have 90 seconds to answer the questions. Each candidate will have 30 seconds for a rebuttal. Each candidate will also have the opportunity to ask the other candidate a question, and the time for answering and rebutting is the same. And each candidate will have 3 minutes for a closing statement. We've drawn from a hat to determine the order for the opening remarks and questions. And right now we will meet our candidates. We'll start with Mayor Donna Holliday. Donna grew up in Marblehead, Massachusetts. When she visited Newburyport during her college years, it was easy to see why she would fall in love with this historic seaport community. She moved here after completing her first graduate degree, a Master's of Science from Boston University. She returned to school to earn a second graduate degree, a Master's in Education from the University of New Hampshire. She devoted 20 years to working with individuals with disabilities, serving in senior management positions for state and nonprofits. Seeking new challenges, she enrolled in law school and graduated from the Massachusetts School of Law, cum laude, and continues to be a member of the Massachusetts Bar. During law school, she became a resource development specialist at Middlesex Community College, where she researched and developed grant proposals for the college, workforce, and international programs. In 2002, she ran for and was elected as City Councilor at Large. She has served 2 terms as City Councilor, chairing the Budget and Finance Committee before she was elected Mayor of Newburyport in 2010 and is serving her 2nd term. Mayor Holliday has developed a very aggressive agenda while she's been in office, including restructuring of city departments, increasing funding for education, successfully securing funding for 2 school projects and a senior community center, and working on a range of transportation, green initiatives, and economic development issues. Mayor Donna Holliday. Richard E. Sullivan Jr. is a Newburyport native and retired Newburyport firefighter. His public service record includes service in the U.S. Navy on the USS Midway, 4 years on the Newburyport School Committee, 32 years in the Newburyport Fire Department, 2 years on the Newburyport City Council, had service on the Master Plan Steering Committee under Mayor Lisa Mead. He is currently employed as the owner-broker of Richard E. Sullivan Real Estate. He lives in the city's West End with his longtime partner, Penny Stauffer, and his two daughters. His top 3 priorities are: 1, keep open and expand the Central Waterfront, improve educational opportunities for our children, and improve the overall quality of life for all Newburyport residents. Richard E. Sullivan, Jr. We will begin with our remarks of 3 minutes from each candidate, and we will start with Richard Sullivan.
Thank you. I want to thank the Chamber of Commerce and WNBP Radio and the Newburyport Daily News and the folks that have showed up here tonight. This is part of an important process, and you have to know where the candidates stand. But I am here tonight to ask you for your vote and to make my case for the kind of government that you want and the kind of mayor I want to be. This city government belongs to you. The people who elect us as our leaders, as your leaders, the people who pay the bills, the parents that want to give their children every advantage in a competitive world, and the folks who rightly expect quality public services from their tax dollars. You deserve a government and a mayor who is open and transparent, positive and inclusive. This city exists as it does today because of the collective hands of many people. People who understood that no one has all the answers, and that nobody is right 100% of the time. No longer can we have a me, me, I attitude in City Hall. I believe in the 3 C's of government: communication, cooperation, and collaboration. I'm a collaborator. I'm a team builder. Working together, we can find the answers we need to make our government work better. Over the past 4 years, we have had 3 school superintendents and a revolving door in school administration. Our school ranking in the state has dropped from number 16 to number 67 in 2 years, and we still have not really begun to replace the programs, the educational programs, that we started cutting 20 some odd years ago. The fight for the control of the waterfront is heating up. In my opinion, the Newburyport Redevelopment Authority has injected itself into this local election. As I noted several times, 3 of the current members of the NRA are contributors and supporters of the current administration. And I found out today that they are also supporting some of the council candidates. I am really suspicious as to what is really at stake on our waterfront. Working together, we can find ways to keep our waterfront undeveloped and protect for future generations. Together, we can find ways to improve our neighborhoods, parks and playgrounds, and streets and sidewalks. And I want to be your next mayor to bring a positive and inclusive attitude back to City Hall. Thank you for coming in tonight.
Mayor Holliday.
Thank you. Thank you to the Chamber of Commerce, Daily News, Port Media, WNPP, the Daily News for sponsoring this important debate tonight. And thank you to the voters of Newburyport who have given me the privilege and the opportunity to serve as your mayor for the past 4 years. And it has been a very productive 4 years. But our accomplishments could not have happened without the hundreds of volunteers who serve on our boards, commissions, committees, and other groups who work in collaboration with our city departments. We have moved forward in so many areas. Our finances are strong and stable with a strong AA bond rating. We have created 2 new revenue streams and have aggressively pursued tax title. We've invested in our infrastructure with a 600% increase in funding for sidewalks and a 220% increase to our wonderful parks. We have currently $100 million in capital projects underway. The wastewater treatment plant, the water plant, our school projects, and finally, a senior community center. We have made significant advances in sustainability and green initiatives. Together, we need to finish what we've started. I look forward to our discussion of these and other issues tonight, even if we have only 90 seconds to respond. Thank you for joining us tonight.
Our first question will come from John McCone to Mr. Sullivan.
Mr. Sullivan, you've seen the Newburyport Redevelopment Authority's proposal for its waterfront property. What would you like to see happen on the NRA land, and how would you go about working with the NRA to get it done?
Thank you, John. What I want to see on that waterfront is no buildings with the exception of a nice visitor center with decent bathrooms, and expansion to the Harbor Master Shack to make it palatable for boaters visiting the city. My vision for the waterfront is to take that NRA land. Hopefully the NRA will sit down with me my first day in office and we will start discussing how to transfer that land over to the city, the citizens of this city. And then we expand that waterfront park and leave it for the enjoyment of future generations. And when that deed for that land goes to Salem, it's going to have the words in perpetuity attached to it, which means forever. Nobody can touch it. Once we put buildings on there, that waterfront park is gone. Plain and simple, forever.
Thank you. Mayor Holliday?
Thank you. I think we can start with the premise that every single person in our city is passionate and loves our waterfront. We have been fighting over what to do about our waterfront for over 30 years. For the first time, the NRA came to the city with a concept, with a proposal to build out a beautiful park that we all want, with a finance plan. So they proceeded to engage Mass Development and Union Studios to put together a concept with development that would fund the park we all want. So as I walk across the city from Plum Island to Turkey Hill, I've listened to you and your feedback regarding this proposal. And it's very clear that the majority of people that I speak to do not want private condos. They do not want underground parking. They do not want the land sold, and they want it kept as open as possible. And that's what the plan is. It's not about open space, it's about buildings and cars. How do you fund the expanded park and continue the maintenance of it for years to come? We have a lot of work to do, to work with the NRA, to modify this plan, and to help them understand that they do not have to come forward with a 100% financing plan, that we can work with them and making up that gap.
Thank you. Mr. Sullivan, you have 30 seconds to rebut if you'd like.
No, I would just say that, you know, it's going to be a back and forth here, but the doors I've been knocking on have been very clear. I knock on the door, the people answer the door. How do you feel about the waterfront? I want to keep it open. Thanks, you got my vote, and they close the door. Plain and simple. I don't know which people you're talking to, but I've got the message loud and clear. People want that waterfront left open.
Thank
The
you.
people.
Yep.
That's it.
All right, well, we'll move on to our next question from Kim Goby, and this is addressed to Mayor Holliday.
So, Mayor Holliday, other than the waterfront issue, what are your other concerns or aspirations for the continued success of our downtown? And how will you address these, and more importantly, how will you pay for them?
Excellent question. We are in the process of upgrading our master plan, which will involve looking at the full waterfront. We have the concept plan currently before us on the NRA property, and we have a lot of work to do to get to consensus on building out the park we want. We also have a wonderful plan for a transient boater facility. We have 10 proposals before the city currently, and that will be paid for by boater fees. We also have, if we move a little further away from the waterfront, down over by the Fitness Factory where New England Development is about to start permitting for a hotel. In addition, they will be taking the Lombardi property and putting in a valet garage there. What we need to do in order to realize the park that we want, which we can move in phases on the waterfront, we need somewhere to move the cars. We've been working for several years with the Merrimack Valley Regional Transit Authority in design and the build out of a garage. And we're also working with the state on securing funding for that. As an intermodal facility, we are eligible for financial funds from the federal government. At one point, we had $7.5 million in a federal earmark ready to go in a transportation bond bill. I'm working with Congressman Tierney to try and get release of some of that funds once we can secure the land for a parking garage. And there's so much more to talk about.
Thank you.
But so little time.
I know.
Mr.
90
Sullivan,
seconds.
Same question.
Would you mind repeating the question, please?
Sure, happy to. Other than the waterfront issue, what are your concerns or aspirations for the continued success of our downtown? And how will you address these? And more importantly, how will you pay for them?
Well, first of all, what it boils down to is sitting down with the business owners downtown and finding out exactly what they need to make the difference in their own, in their own businesses. I think the fact that we had the Green Street parking lot closed at the height of their business season shows to me that there's a direct disconnect between City Hall and local businesses. I'm looking to bring that connection back. And as far as the rest of the downtown is concerned, I would like to put that parking garage on the corner of Titcomb and Merrimack where the fitness factory is now. The Lombardi building poses several issues. One is that the wall on the Pleasant Street side is actually connected to a residential building over there. So that could cause a problem. The other question is, do we have what do they call, a brownfield site with Lombardi oil property? And I would like to see the hotel go back across the street between Michael's Harborside driveway and 58 Merrimack Street, Horton Jard, the condominiums. That's my vision for the downtown.
Okay. Mayor Holliday, you have 30 seconds to rebut.
It's difficult to talk about development on property that is owned or not owned by New England Development. They own the fitness factory, and that is where they're permitting the hotel, and they have plans for the valet garage, which will work. The issue about the Green Street parking lot, it's not a disconnect with businesses. We've been meeting every month with the Downtown Business Improvement Group since I took office. We have addressed numerous issues with the business community, and the retailers are part of the conversation. We made an agreement that we would use paid parking revenues specifically for the downtown, and that was used for the Green Street lot, which was never completely closed.
Not to cut you off, that's 30 seconds. Thank you.
Our next question comes from John McCone and is addressed to Mr. Sullivan.
Thank you. Mr. Sullivan, tell us about your management style and experience. What specific job experience and qualifications do you bring to the mayor's office that would allow you to effectively manage our city's $54 million annual budget?
Where do I start? I grew up here. As a young child, I was involved in a lot of the conversations dealing with the operations of the city, from George Lawler to Byron Matthews, my father, and the list goes on. I have been involved in a lot of the stuff that has gone on in this community. I'm familiar with the city's business operations. I have also owned two businesses. One I currently own, it's successful. The other one that I owned was a business called Closet Works, and I was successful at that. I am not a boss. I want to make that very clear. I am a collaborator, as I said in my opening statement. I am a team builder. That's how I intend to manage the city's business. It's very simple. You surround yourself with professional people and you collaborate together to do the best you can for the residents of this community. And if you're satisfied with that answer, if you're not, let me know and I'll give you more.
All right. Thank you. Mayor Holliday?
I think my track record has shown that I have been a solid and strong leader for this community. We have generated together over $50 million worth of funds for projects all across the city that are not on the backs of taxpayers. A mayor has to be an advocate for the community in partnership with our state and federal legislatures. I've demonstrated that I have those skills and qualities. We've put together the strongest management teams across the city in finance, in social services, in public safety, and those management teams continue to evolve. I think one of the first things I learned as a manager, at one point I had 250 staff underneath me working in a nonprofit, that it's really important to surround yourself with people who don't think the same way that you do. And it's really important to have diverse teams so that you constantly are being challenged on initiatives that you're putting forward for the city. We have made tremendous progress in our capital projects, in our financial stability, in our parks, in our infrastructure, and there still is so much more to do, as well as in our schools. And for the record, we've had 2 superintendents in the past 4 years.
Thank you. Mr. Sullivan, would you like to rebut?
Yes, I would like to add that to my experience, I've got 4 years on the school committee and 2 years on the city council, 32 years on the Newburyport Fire Department. I have a very good idea of how this city is supposed to operate. And it was 3 superintendents. One when you came in, Deirdre Farrell, and Dr. Kerbel.
Our next question comes from Kim Goby and will be addressed to Mayor Holliday.
Mayor Holliday, sticking with the theme of your professional experience, we would like to know if you would be willing to cite one professional as well as one political challenge that you believe you mishandled or could have handled better, and would you want to do it over, or was it a valuable lesson learned?
Oh, that's a really good question. I think probably one of the greatest challenges has been the waterfront. And I think what I have tried to explain to the community is that my record's pretty clear on my support of open space. And that when I ran for office, you talk about your personal beliefs because that's all you have to talk about. You don't have a record in running the city. And I think that I would have come out much earlier in terms of explaining our relationship that the city had collaborated with the NRA. It wasn't a flip-flop, it was a finance conceptual plan, concept plan that we came together to try and see if it would work and what would be the feedback from the community. So I think I would have handled that somewhat differently, if I could redo that information and communication. And the other was a personal?
No, a professional and political, or it could be one or both, that's fine.
I think the other thing that I made a mistake on was the communication regarding the taking down of the Brown School playground. What had happened there was it was 18 years old. I had been involved in the playground.
Sorry, out of time.
This is not working.
Sorry about that. Mr. Sullivan, same question to you.
Would you mind repeating it again?
Sure. Cite one professional as well as one political challenge you believe that you mishandled or could have handled better, and would you want a do-over, or was it a valuable lesson learned?
Do-overs don't count. And there's always a valuable lesson to be learned. I'm sure that I have made many mistakes in my lifetime, and I have learned from them, but I haven't looked back. I can't think of any mistakes that I may have made in my own mind. I'm sure that some people have been watching me for the last 2 years and think that I haven't performed quite as well as I should have. But I learn from those mistakes and I move on. It's all about tomorrow, not what happened yesterday.
Okay, thank you. Mayor Holliday, you have 30 more seconds.
I will finish the Brown School playground. So I live 2 doors down from there, and we're very involved in the development of this playground. My husband's band, Beetlejuice, did a fundraiser for it, and we had been monitoring the status of it over the last several weeks prior to its coming down, and found out that there were 20 rotted beams. And the day that I asked for it to be taken down, a teacher was out there with the children. She hit one of the beams. It cracked from top to bottom. We are so fortunate that some child didn't get injured, and I called to take it down, but I could have communicated better to the community about taking it down.
John McCone has our next question for Mr. Sullivan.
Thank you. Mr. Sullivan, one of Newburyport's hidden gems is the industrial park. It's a source of taxes, jobs, and revenue for the city. As mayor, what would you do to increase jobs and bring in new businesses to the park?
As mayor, I would work closely with the Chamber of Commerce, number one, to go out there and find businesses to come to Newburyport. That's what we did back in the 70s and 80s, and it worked very well. When I was a kid going to school, NADE, Newburyport Area Industrial Development, developed see, I'm still stuck on the waterfront. They developed that industrial park out there, and that was a huge economic generator for this community. And we didn't have to pay fees to play sports, and we had the best educational courses available. And what needs to be done out there is it needs to be revitalized. We have companies that are leaving, and nobody seems to be too concerned. But when you have a company like Cabot Stain or Valspar that is picking up stakes and moving, we're still going to get tax revenue from that building, but we won't get as much as we would if that building was occupied and delivering some income to that company. That income will translate into increased taxes. But one of the things we need to do out there is improve those road conditions, build some sidewalks, improve the lighting, and make it attractive for companies to want to come here and work and stay.
Thank you. Mayor Holliday?
Thank you. My administration has been meeting with members of owners in the business park since day one with support of the chamber. NADE had dissolved several years ago, and it was important to bring the businesses back together in a united group to advocate for the issues now we're referring to it as the business park. Ralph Castagna and Ray Nippies are co-chairing this business group with over 64 businesses now in process working together. And we have worked with them around swale management and permitting. We have been able to complete one major road construction project there. Definitely do not have enough money to fund all the roads that need to be taken care of in the city, but we're ticking them off the list. We are also working with the Mass Office of Business Development and Peter Milano's group in terms of locating new businesses that are coming into the city, and we have a very exciting prospect for Cabot and Valspar. In my conversations with corporate office for Valspar, they were moving manufacturing off that site, and that was the best business decision for them. And these are things you have to work with businesses. So we're working with the Chamber, we're working with Minco, we're working with Mass Office and Development in filling those spots, but we're also seeing numerous expansion out there. We have Rochester Electronics that has just purchased its 4th building. Zampel has expanded. We're working on new zoning so that we can go up because of the wetlands issues out there.
Thank you. Mr. Sullivan, would you like to rebut?
No, I'm good.
Then our next question will come from Kim Goby for Mayor Holliday.
Okay, Mayor Holliday. Newburyport is dependent on visitors and tourists to assist the downtown businesses, restaurants, art community, and inns. I would like you to have the opportunity to tell a group of 100 tourist organizations why their travel agents should make a stop here in Newburyport. Go.
Our city is magnificent. We have a beautiful waterfront, historic buildings and structures downtown. We have a beautiful Clipper Heritage Trail, which now you can walk and use your smartphone and you can learn about the amazing maritime history and other history of our city. We have beautiful parks. We have gorgeous inns and some of the finest 5-star restaurants north of Boston.
Fantastic. Mr. Sullivan, same question to you.
Can you repeat the question?
Yes. Newburyport is dependent on visitors and tourists to assist the downtown businesses, restaurants, arts community, and inns. I would like you to give a 1-minute speech to a group of tourist organizations why their travel agents should make a stop in Newburyport.
Newburyport, love at first sight. It's a beautiful community. I grew up here, and I remember what it used to look like. And now that we have redone this community, it looks absolutely beautiful. And people drive through this community now, and they want to live here. I sell real estate. I know that our community draws people here. I've been skiing up in Vermont and New Hampshire, and you sit on the chairlift, and people say, "Where are you from?" And you say, "Newburyport." They're from California. They know Newburyport. people do want to come here. It's a natural feeling for them, I believe.
Thank you. Mayor Holliday, you have 30 more seconds if you choose.
In addition, we have some of the most magnificent parks and beautiful beaches. Plum Island and the reservation, our Eagle Festival, our bike paths, our rail trail. Stop in, park the bus, get off, have a bite to eat, and go and walk along our gorgeous rail trail and see the amazing sculptures, organic gardens, and you will want to come and live in our community.
Thank you.
John McCone has the next question for Mr. Sullivan.
Thank you. Mr. Sullivan, can you assess City Hall's professional staff and department heads for us? What departments do you feel operate well and why? And where would you like to see changes made?
Are you actually asking me to speculate on who I would remove and who I would keep if I take office?
You can generalize.
I think that there are some changes that I would make, and I do not want to elaborate on them today. Right now, I am concentrating on getting elected to that post. And then I will start deciding after November 5th who I want to change and what changes I want to make to those department makeups. I do believe that the fire department works well, not just because I came there, but we have a lot of professional people on that department that want to expand and build on their career opportunities there. I believe that we have some good people working at City Hall, but I honestly believe that we can be doing things better. But I'm not going to start speculating as far as who stays and who goes until after I win this election.
Mayor Holliday?
I think my track record proves that I had some cleaning house to do when I took office. When I first became mayor, I was really struck by the fact that people worked in silos. There were no collaboration, there were no cross-training, no interdisciplinary teams that addressed issues across the board, and had to work hard because our department heads are Teamsters. Others are under contract, and it's not an easy task to just eliminate positions in City Hall. So it took some time, but I have worked very hard to build a strong and responsive professional team who, first and foremost, answers to the residents and businesses of this city. I know that at any time, 2:30 in the morning, I could pick up the phone, and there isn't a single department head who would not get back into the city and be here to address some issue that comes up. We have built strong teams across departments that work collaboratively together on numerous issues. Public safety teams. In fact, one example is that after the Boston Marathon, we were very concerned about our readiness, especially with the new fire chief and a new EMS service. So we did a tabletop exercise just before our Yankee homecoming to be prepared.
Thank you. Mr. Sullivan, would you like to rebut?
No, I'm good, thank you.
And we'll go back to Kim Goby for the next question, and we'll go to Mayor Holliday.
Okay. Mayor Holliday, another speculative question. The mayor is in charge of board appointments, including controversial or somewhat controversial ones like to the NRA as well as the Waterfront Trust. Would you be looking to make changes to any of the current boards?
It takes, I think, evaluation of how a board is working in total. And I put a lot of emphasis on the chair of each board in terms of whether or not the board is functioning well and what they would be looking for as, for example, there's term limits on the Waterfront Trust. So if you lose someone who had a finance ability, then you want someone to replace that skill. So that's sort of the process that I have used going forward. I know that currently the appointments on the NRA have been debated and discussed. There is probably one appointment coming up, and that happens to be a gentleman who is a member of Greenbelt and a big proponent of open space. I don't think that that would be a position that I would want to replace on the NRA, because that is one of the most important issues, is open space on the waterfront.
Thank you. Mr. Sullivan, I'll repeat the question for you. The mayor...
No, that's okay, I'm good.
Oh, okay. I was trying
Threw you a
to be...
curveball there, didn't
I
I?
was trying to be proactive.
I was working on that the whole time, you know. Would you mind repeating the question? No, I'm kidding. Yeah, the beauty of the new mayoral term being 4 years is that the new mayor is going to have an opportunity to change the makeup and the composition of a lot of these city boards. What I am looking for with things like, say, youth services, I am looking for people that have had experience working with groups such as youth in the schools and stuff. With the NRA, that's going to be my first challenge. If the NRA is going to refuse to turn that waterfront property back over to the taxpayers of this city, I intend to start talking to the NRA about possibly disbanding. And if they don't want to do that, then the next mayor is going to have the opportunity over the 4 years to change pretty much the whole makeup of that board. And that includes the governor's appointment. The governor does not know who his appointment really is, I do not believe. I believe that that comes from a recommendation from the mayor's office. You know, so you know, yes, I intend to change the makeup of a lot of these boards and commissions and put professionals and experienced people in those positions.
Thank you. Mayor Holliday, you have 30 seconds.
I take a little bit of offense to that. I'm going to put professional people into these boards. That's what we have. That's what we've strived so hard to achieve. We have an admiral sitting on our harbor commission. We have planners. We have attorneys on our ZBA, our zoning board of appeals. We work very hard. There is not to appoint the right people on these boards. There is not an appointment that I have put before the city council to confirm that I haven't sat with and met and interviewed and gone through their resume, as well as work with the chair of that board or commission to determine if that's going to be a good match. As I said in my opening statements, sorry.
Sticking to the time here, John has the next question for Mr. Sullivan.
Thank you. Mr. Sullivan, Plum Island faces an uncertain future. The government has spent millions of dollars on replenishing the beach and rebuilding the jetties. Can you tell us about your view of Plum Island's erosion problems? What you think is the best strategy that going forward from this point?
The Plum Island is a sandbar, basically, okay? It is a natural act for erosion to occur. That being said, we also have residents down there that are paying taxes to this community and to the town of Newbury, okay? We have an obligation to help them protect those properties. What I will do specifically is almost really hard to say, because every situation is different and you have to be able to think on your feet, but you also, it gets back to collaboration. We have to discuss these things with the people on Plum Island and our state and federal legislators to come up with solutions to that problem. Every time they tried to do something down there, whether it was pumping sand back up onto the beach, it eroded with the next storm. It's a constant thing down there, and it's been going on for generations. And people that have lived down there for generations will tell you that it's just constantly changing. So the answer to your question is, I am willing to collaborate with any group of people to come up with solutions that will work.
Thank you. Mayor Holliday?
We have had a very strong collaboration on Plum Island. It's called the Merrimack River Beach Alliance that has been meeting for many, many years. It even was in existence prior to my 4-year terms. We have been working collectively on every and any strategy that we can in terms of addressing the beach erosion. I think one of the difficulties is that we probably should have waited in terms of dredging and putting the sand that went in Salisbury and Newbury. We're not part of that dredging project in terms of sand being put on the Newburyport side of the beaches until after the jetties were repaired. But the jetties were built by the Army Corps and began failing. And so a legislative delegation went to Washington, myself with Senator Bador, Mike Costello, Representative Costello, and Senator Tarr, and Selectman Story. And we spent hours with the Army Corps of Engineers in their national headquarters in Washington to advocate for them to come and fix the jetties they built. I'm grateful to Congressman Tierney, who found us the first $5.5 million. The second round has just been issued, and the final repair of the South Jetty will happen. We need another $10 million to do the North Jetty, and we will continue to advocate for that. We're also working with a dredging operation happening in southern New Hampshire, hoping to get some more sand. We also are investigating things like beach mining, beach scraping, and biomimicry.
Thank you. Mr. Sullivan, would you like to rebut?
I will just say that I had been to several meetings in the past with this group, the Merrimack River, what was it called? Well, no, because it's all abbreviated.
The Merrimack River Beach Alliance.
Thank you. I had been to several of those meetings in the past where people from City Hall were not even present at the table. I had found out from people that live on the island that this was going on. So I started attending these meetings. And in my mind, it did not, the city of Newburyport did not sit at the table until, okay, good. I got the sign to stop, sorry.
And Kim Goby has the next question, and it will go to Mayor Holliday.
Okay, Mayor Holliday, shifting gears quite a bit. As the mother of 3 teenagers who all live and attend public schools here in the city, I worry about the increase of drug use and drug sales here in the city. There can be different approaches that a mayor would take to address this. What would your focus be? Would you utilize the city's youth services or youth council, the school resource officer, or try and affect policy or programming through your role as head of the school committee? Can you please be specific in your answer?
Absolutely. We already have been very specific in terms of addressing drug and alcohol use with our teens with a drug-free community grant that is in its second 4-year cycle. In addition, which initially I helped write that first federal grant. In addition, the increase in heroin and the discovery of needles in our playgrounds has caused me grave concern. The first calls came in from Perkins Playground, and with the help of Councilor Harquist, we set up a family community meeting at Emma Andrews and talked about setting up a neighborhood watch, cameras, additional lighting. In addition, I asked Frank Cousins, who sent the inmates from the facility in Lawrence, to come and do a complete sweep of all of our parks and our rail trail. And that we started a couple weeks ago with a zero baseline. We have posted on the city website what to do if you should come across a needle. And in addition, on November 4th, I have organized a community conversation on heroin use with DA Blodgett, his juvenile youth staff, Andy Egmont from our youth services, our public safety team, myself, as well as public health officials. And we will continue to address these issues all across the city and work with neighborhoods on how we keep the neighborhood safe and how we increase our collaboration with our neighborhood, with our regional police forces through mutual aid to address the increase in drug use in the greater Newburyport community.
Thank you. Mr. Sullivan?
The answer to that, to me, is quite simple. Stepped up enforcement, stepped up for police patrols. Get out of the police cruiser and take a walk on the rail trail. Take a walk through the city parks. I see police officers riding around on the bikes, sometimes during the daylight hours, down in the south end of the community, going through our parks. This isn't just recently. This has been taking place for a number of years. But they do need our help down there. And we do need to get back into a collaborative effort with the Merrimack Valley Drug Task Force to address some of these issues. But it is a very serious issue, and I don't know that, I actually had a parent ask me if we had heroin problems in this school. I don't believe that we do. I believe that any problems that we have with the kids in this community is marijuana based, and that needs to be addressed too. Kids think that it's okay. because of the voters trying to change the laws to make these drugs more available. And that's really what it's going to take, is stepped up enforcement and start putting the boots to these people. Plain and simple.
Thank you. Mayor Holliday, you have another 30 seconds.
What the major problem is, it's not so much high school where we're having issues with heroin use. What's happening is prescription drugs. And kids are starting at a very young age to take pills from parents' cabinets. This has been documented everywhere. And then what happens is that these pills cost about $80 a piece. So what's the option? Is to go to heroin, which is so cheap and so powerful now. And so these are real serious issues. The population is around 20 to 30 that we're dealing with in this age range with this issue.
Thank you.
John McCone has the next question for Mr. Sullivan.
Thank you. Mr. Sullivan, given the rising costs of health benefits, salaries, goods, and services on the city, combined with the limitations of Proposition 2.5, how would you diversify the city's revenue sources in order to maintain city services?
Well, we know that every year we have projected revenues when we go to build our budgets. Right now, I think our priorities are all over the place. What we need to do is look at those projected revenues and then decide what our priorities are going to be. My first priority is to put foreign language back into the Newburyport public school system. That's going to cost about $400,000 or $500,000, I believe. That's a priority, but we have others. The health insurance costs, the Public Employees Committee has worked diligently, in my opinion, to hold the feet to the fire of the insurance companies to try to hold those premium costs down. But one of the problems with the health care is that people that are uninsured are having to be covered by insurance companies that are turning the expense back on to the people with the deeper pockets, like the city of Newburyport. But as far as the public employees unions go, I have already spoken to them, and I have told them that I cannot guarantee you any pay raises or any increases in benefits for at least the first 2 years in office, because I think that all I have to do on day one is get a good grip on the city's true financial picture.
Thank you. Mayor Holliday?
I think the diversification of the city revenues really stems from economic development. And that's where our focus really has to be in terms of that expansion. Starting with our 40R development by Minco, which they were awarded the Mass MBTA contract just recently, and there'll be 65 units being built down by the traffic circle. And as these are developed under this new initiative with the state 40R, we receive revenue as each unit is opened. We also are working with New England Development on the creation of a hotel. And just like with being able to pass the meals tax and take a percentage of that to use in our general revenue we use for sidewalks, we can pass under the Governor's Municipal Partnership Act the hotel tax, and we can have another stream of revenue there. In addition, we need to get projects going that have failed. For example, down by the toll building, First Republic, that's been sitting boarded up for many, many years. And we have met with the new CEO as they've reorganized First Republic and are starting to come back and meet with us, and hopefully we can get that project going. Again, that creates additional revenue for the city.
Thank you. Mr. Sullivan, would you like to rebut?
I will just add that to that question, that better management of taxpayers' money goes a long way too.
We have another question now from Kim Goby, and she will address it to Mayor Holliday.
Mayor Holliday, as you know, the mayor in the city serves as the head of the school committee. Do you envision an opportunity to restore the curriculum shortfalls that we've incurred? And do you see the school's current, and what do you see as the school's current needs? How would you fund anything you restore? And finally, would funding one thing mean cutting funding to something else? And how would you balance
90
this?
seconds. Okay, when I first took office, our funding to the schools was 0.67%. With the additional revenue streams that we were able to create, we were able to increase funding 3%, 3.5%, and 3%. What that meant was that we were able to start putting back some of the programs that were cut. That included Spanish in 7th and 8th grade. Are we there yet? Absolutely not. We need a robust foreign language program from kindergarten till 12th grade. We need to get back there. The other programs that took really significant hits were our arts. And we've begun, by those increased revenue streams and by increasing funding to school, to start increasing those part-time positions by a few more hours every week. So we are in a rebuilding phase. It was interesting when our Senator Ives was here doing a tour. She chairs the Arts and Culture Joint Legislative Committee and was doing a listening tour across the state. And one of the things that came up was the possibility of putting a new bill before the legislature that would fund arts and music out of Chapter 70, which is the mainstream funding for our schools. I think that's something that's worth investigating, worth pursuing, in order to help us restore arts in our school programs, because I think any education requires a full-rounded opportunity for the students. One thing that we voted unanimously for.
Thank you, Mayor Holliday. Mr. Sullivan.
I love how she slows down. You know, just flow right into it. I would be providing the leadership to work with the school committee and school administration to help us set our priorities as far as the education system goes here, and let the professionals tell us, the decision makers, what we should be doing for our school children. You know, I don't want to sound like I'm going to elaborate on it, but that's pretty much what's at stake here. We have to make a commitment to these children in this school system, and we have to do it without raising the tax burden on the tax-paying citizens in this city. And we can do it by looking at our projected revenues and setting those priorities and taking care of some of these issues. Plain and simple.
Thank you. Mayor Holliday, you have an additional 30 seconds.
Thank you. I forgot where I was left off. I think that we have worked really hard to increase funding to the schools. We have several needs that have not been met outside of art science. We cut many electives at the high school. It's really critical that we put those back. It's really important that we have very, very strong science, technology, engineering, and math programs that start in the middle school level.
Definitely not long enough.
Well, we've come to the part of the program where the candidates can ask each other a question, and the same timing applies. Each candidate will have 90 seconds to answer the question, and of course the candidate that asks the question gets a chance to rebut. And we will begin with the first question from Mr. Sullivan to Mayor Holliday.
Actually, this might surprise you, but I'm not going to ask her a question. I don't want to put her on the spot by asking a loaded question. I think we've had a good discussion on the topics here tonight, and I think our answers speak for themselves.
Well, then I don't think that it would be appropriate for me to ask one of my questions that I would like to. So let's just move on then with the questions.
They want you to ask the question.
Okay. Energy efficiency and green initiatives have generated national attention. Newburyport has been designated by the state as a green community. What would you do to further the city's energy efficiency and sustainability initiatives?
That's a good question, but it goes back to the collaboration that I talked about earlier. I actually considered starting a business at one point installing solar panels, and I looked heavily into that, and I do think that that's the wave of the future. I think people generally do not like the look of a windmill. It doesn't bother me personally, but I know that the country is getting further and further away from windmills and using solar panels. I also think that the initiatives that are being proposed now with talking about like the trash bags and or the grocery bags, the plastic bags. There is an initiative to outlaw those in this community, and I can support that. But like I said, it all goes back to collaboration. We have people out in the industrial park that are exploring alternative energy sources, and I think as they do their research and as they grow, we should be doing what we can to keep those businesses in this community. And like I said, it goes right back to the collaboration of it.
And you have an additional 30 seconds.
Thank you. We have come very far as a designated green community, and that really is because of the leadership of Molly Ettenborough and the Energy Advisory Committee. We had moved forward so far in terms of our solar and our energy initiatives that we were selected by the Meister Group and by the Department of Energy Conservation to be the pilot city in the Commonwealth to work with us about establishing a 20-year sustainability roadmap.
Well, we've been moving right along, and we're not even up against the start of a baseball game, which we want to thank Major League Baseball for putting their schedule around our debate tonight and deciding to start tomorrow night instead of
Do you guys
tonight.
have any input with that?
We will go to our closing statements, of which each candidate has 3 minutes, and we'll start with Mr. Sullivan.
Thank you. And again, thank you for everybody involved in putting this debate together tonight. I believe that we're at a critical point in Newburyport's history. This election season has seen vicious, anonymous mailings and a whisper campaign that is designed to do nothing more than to take your attention away from the issues. Excuse me. I have worked hard to keep my message positive and on what is important to the residents of this city. An open and responsive government, somebody that will actually return a phone call or an email, and a better public services from City Hall to improving our streets and sidewalks. As a member of the school committee and as a member of the council, I have tried to be positive and work together with my constituents to keep them informed. As a mayor, I pledge to keep doing what I have been doing during this campaign. That's to get into your neighborhoods and talk to the people. As your mayor, I'm sorry, I tripped over that one. As I have campaigned across this city listening to your concerns, one thing has become quite clear. We need a new direction, an open and approachable leader, and a new mayor. From our schools to our sidewalks, from planning public improvements to simply being open to neighbors' concerns, we need a mayor who will put the people first, provide smarter management of their tax dollars, listen to the folks that pay the bills, and keep a promise to maintain our most precious public resource, an open waterfront that belongs to all of us. I want my children and yours to grow up in a city where each of us has a chance to be heard and every voice matters. I want to work with you and I want to work for you. I cannot stress enough the 3 C's: communication, cooperation, and collaboration. It is extremely frustrating to me that the City Council, and more importantly, the residents of this community, have no idea what is being negotiated between City Hall and New England Development. It is extremely frustrating to me as a city councilor that I have had to read in the daily news of important decisions being made at City Hall. I came here tonight to plead my case for better management style at City Hall, and I came here tonight to ask for your vote, and I hope that I have earned that vote. And as I said in my opening statement, I am here to ask for your vote, and I just hope I've got it. Thank you very much.
And 3 minutes for Mayor Holliday.
Thank you. Tonight, you have had the opportunity to hear our discussion of many issues important to the future of our city. In less than 2 weeks, you, the voters of Newburyport, will go to the polls and determine who will lead our city for the next 4 years, our first 4-year term. My vision for our future builds on our successes, ensuring continued close oversight of our $100 million in capital projects, continued financial stability, economic growth, sustainability initiatives, and creation of a cultural district. We are beginning a holistic review of our zoning and an upgrade to the city's master plan. Our schools are moving in the right direction under the leadership of our new superintendent, transitioning to the Common Core, implementation of a strong mentoring and professional development program, new teacher evaluation, completion of a comprehensive technology plan, strengthening special education services, and new partnerships with higher education. Newburyport has been my home for 30 years. I met my husband Joe here, and we recently celebrated our 30th wedding anniversary. We raised our two sons, PJ and Jared, who attended our public schools K through 12. We couldn't imagine a better place to live and to raise a family. At the end of the day, this campaign is about my track record and our accomplishments. It is about my service to you, the voters of Newburyport, and my passion, my work ethic, and my love of this city. I have been here for you every day for the past 4 years, and I will be there for you again every day over the next 4 years. Together, we can continue to move our city forward, and I invite you to be part of that team. I ask for your support, and I ask for your vote on November 5th. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor Holliday. Thank you, Mr. Sullivan. Thank you also to our panel, Kim Goby, the chair-elect of the Greater Newburyport Chamber of Commerce, and John McCone, the editor of the Daily News. Thank you to the Greater Newburyport Chamber of Commerce and Development, the Newburyport Daily News, Port Media, and WNBP Radio for bringing the program tonight. And most of all, we thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for being a cooperative and attentive audience. And don't forget to get out and vote on November 5th. Thank you.
Thank you.